During World War II, Hungary's regent, Admiral Horthy, was in an uneasy alliance with Nazi Germany and began to negotiate with the Western Allies during Operation Barbarossa, also known as the Axis invasion of the USSR. Horthy officially began negotiating with the Western Allies, however, in the fall of 1943 for a separate peace and had plans to secretly negotiate with the Soviets in 1944 as the USSR was almost at Hungary's border. However, these negotiations were discovered by the Germans. On March 19, 1944, Germany invaded and occupied Hungary in Operation Margarethe, and Margarethe saw a quick and bloodless German invasion which came as a complete surprise to the Hungarians. The Germans initially sought to disarm and immobilize the Hungarian army completely, but in the face of Soviet advances in the Carpathians and Allied gains in the Balkans, the Germans decided to keep the Hungarian army. However, during the occupation, the Nazis began the mass deportation of Jews to concentration camps. In spite of the German occupation, Horthy continued to attempt a peace treaty with the Soviets, much to the anger of the Nazis. Shortly before the Soviets launched the Budapest offensive into Hungary, Horthy announced that Hungary had signed an armistice, and this resulted in Operation Panzerfaust being launched by the Germans. This operation occurred on October 15th of the same year and witnessed the fascist Arrow-Cross Party being supported by the Nazis seizing power and deposing of Horthy in a coup. With Operation Panzerfaust concluding on October 16, 1944, the Soviets launched the Budapest offensive on October 29th after having secured Romania in the summer Second Jassy-Kishinev offensive. Hungary would then fall in 1945 and end up under Soviet occupation, where the Soviets rejected the Marshall Plan and kept the country as a communist satellite state in the Cold War. What if, in an alternate timeline, Hungary was able to get a separate peace deal with the Allies and Soviet Union? Well, first, conditions that would be needed would be for Hungary to not be invaded and occupied by the Nazis by surprise. In order for that to occur, Admiral Horthy would need to join the Allies and declare war on Germany, as neutral Hungary between the Germans and Soviets would definitely not work out and just be invaded anyway. In this alternate timeline, instead of negotiating for an armistice with the Allies, Horthy decides to secretly join the Allies pre-Margarethe in early 1944, and in late 1943 he will have been negotiating and secretly welcoming OSS and SOE operatives into the country, but he will not actually declare war on Germany until the Nazis make a move against Hungary. Therefore, the Hungarians will prepare for a German invasion in January and February so that in March, when the Germans do invade, it does not come by surprise and the Hungarian forces will be ready. Horthy will refuse to go to Austria at Hitler's request on March 15th, and Hungary is on full alert as the Germans prepare their invasion. Within Hungary, Horthy would purge the Arrow-Cross Party members who are allied with the Nazi invaders. Meanwhile, the Germans have launched their invasion of Hungary when the Soviets are still invading from the east. The Luftwaffe would demolish Hungarian cities, and the country witnesses total war against the Germans as Soviets continue to advance to the Carpathians. Hungary becomes the scene of very intense bombardment as the Nazis would attack Hungarian cities with extreme prejudice. Outside of Hungary, the Eastern Front and Italian Front both have more Germans diverted to attack the Hungarians. It's possible that some Germans are diverted from Yugoslavia, but I feel like the Germans would opt to instead send forces that would have been sent to France to invade Hungary, as Italy, Yugoslavia, and the East are all active war zones. Therefore, initial German forces headed to face the Soviets and Allies in Italy are sent into Hungary, and troops in France are redeployed to replace those units on the Italian and Eastern fronts. The US and British Air Forces aid Hungarian forces with supplies and care package drops in Hungary, while also bombing German infrastructure and possibly attacking some German forces headed to Hungary. But Allied fighters above Hungary engage German bombers. Allied intelligence and sabotage agents support the Hungarian forces as the Soviets move into the region in October of 1944. Meanwhile, the Allies have a slightly easier time in France as some divisions are sent to Hungary, but I don't really think too much changes on the Western Front. Post-war, Hungary is in a very weird situation. It will not be given large territories from other countries around it, or become Greater Hungary, or reform the Austro-Hungarian Empire with Horthy as the new emperor. So sorry, hardcore Hearts of Iron 4 fans. On the one hand, Hungary joined the Allies after switching sides and saw destruction by the Nazis. Churchill and Stalin had previously agreed to a 50-50 split of influence in Hungary in our timeline, but had changed this to give the Soviets essentially full control. In this alternate timeline, Hungary sees an even split as both Western Allies and Soviets fought in the country as the Hungarians wanted to be in the NATO bloc. I think that Hungary would be kind of like the reverse of Yugoslavia in some ways, be a capitalist state but not be part of NATO. Hungary is pro-NATO but can't join as the Soviets get influence within the country. But that's just one possible scenario for if Hungary decided to join the Allies in World War II. What do you think would have happened had Hungary joined the Allies and resisted the German invasion in 1944? Write in the comments, and thank you for watching.